Hey guys, Sridev here from SDK Tech, bringing you tech that matters. The topic for today's video is DNS and a few security issues associated with it so that you can step up your defenses. Internet communication takes place using IP addresses. IP addresses are more like your home address, but the only difference is that it identifies various devices on the internet like routers, servers, etc. So, how is it that when you magically enter google.com into the address bar of your browser, you get that web page? You are not providing it with any kind of IP address, or you are not providing any kind of information as to which server the data request has to go to and fetch the data from. So that is where DNS or domain name system comes in. Domain name system is basically a table mapping a web URL to an IP address, which is basically the IP address of the server where the request has to go. This table is hosted on a server that is called the DNS server. So when you enter a web URL into your browser, what happens is that the request is first sent to the DNS server for resolving or obtaining the IP address of the web URL, and the rest of the communication and the steps take place using that IP address. The DNS server does the job of IP resolution from web URLs so that you don't have to remember a string of numbers to visit a website. DNS hijack is a common attack methodology deployed by hackers. Home users are seeing an exponential increase in DNS hijack attempts, with a lot of people locked up in their homes due to the pandemic situation. In DNS hijack, what the hacker does is that they replace the genuine DNS server with a fake one. That means all the URL requests will go to the fake server, and the hackers can send you wrong IP addresses and route you to different web pages other than the original ones. This might mean that you can be led to web pages with malware or some fake login pages that will help hackers steal your login credentials for your bank accounts or email accounts. DNS server configuration is usually done in your router. Either you can use the DNS server of your ISP or pick any one of the publicly available DNS servers like the OpenDNS or the Google DNS servers. Hackers often carry out DNS hijacking attacks by breaking into your router and replacing the DNS configuration with that of their fake servers, which means that every DNS request from all the devices that is connected to the router goes to the fake server, and the hacker's server can forward you the IP addresses of any website as they please, which is often that of websites laden with malware or some fake login pages to steal your credentials. One of the best ways to prevent DNS hijacking attack is to configure the DNS server details in your computer itself rather than the router. When you have it configured on your computer is going to explicitly ask the router to make use of a particular DNS server irrespective of whatever the configuration of the router is. That means if a hacker is able to mess up the router DNS server configuration, it is not going to affect you because you already have the proper DNS settings on your computer, and your computer is going to explicitly ask the router to use those settings instead of the ones in the router. You can do this for Windows, Linux, Mac, and even your smartphones and tablets. So I'm going to show you how to do this on Windows. To configure DNS manually on Windows, go to Control Panel, Network and Security, Network and Sharing Center, change adapter settings, and here you can see your network cards or network interfaces listed. Here I have my Ethernet and my Wi-Fi interface. Go ahead, right click, Properties, and you have this IPv4 version, and go for this option. Use the following DNS server addresses and type in whichever public DNS server you want to use. Similarly, you have to go to the IPv6 version and similarly use the same option and enter the IPv6 address of the server you want to use. Similarly, you have to do this for all the network adapters you have, both for Wi-Fi and Ethernet. You can look up how to do this on Linux, Mac, and even your Android devices. Another type of attack is the DNS poisoning, where a malware is used to modify your local DNS cache so that when you visit a website, you are redirected to unintended ones, just like a DNS hijack. A local DNS cache is more like a local copy of the IP addresses of the websites you have visited, so that multiple DNS requests does not have to be made for visiting the same website over and over again. So I'll show you how to disable DNS caching to protect against DNS poisoning. Also, using a good anti-malware software helps with it. Take note that disabling DNS caching might affect your internet performance, since for every web URL that you try to visit, a DNS request will have to be made. To disable DNS caching on Windows, you have to go to Registry Editor and go to this particular address. I'll put the path in the description. Go to this option, start over here, and usually you will have a value of 2 over here. Change that to 4 and you will have your DNS caching disabled. Of course, you need to restart your system for that to take effect. But this is not something that I would recommend. Mostly you just need to have an antivirus or anti-malware software to counter against DNS poisoning. But still, if you are that extra cautious type and you know what you're doing, it might also be a good option for you. So again, you can look up how to do this on Linux, Mac, and other operating systems. If you found this video useful, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell notification. I create tech videos on a weekly basis. So see you in the next one.